The BBC star Uchukwu Ojiri is in trouble after pleading guilty to the terrorism charges over the scandal of the funding of Hezbollah. And in this video, we're going to give you guys the latest update on the Islamic threat all around the world. Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. I'm Tusi, and this is your latest update from the United Kingdom, specifically the BBC, the British bashing corporation. Of course, there's been a lot of scandals over the last few months when it comes to this so-called news organization. We've had a couple of fake news documentaries in Gaza and in Judea and Samaria. We've had a BBC journalist basically publicly saying that he wants the Jews to be wiped out. There's so much to cover, but actually this is related to yet another BBC star and actually a BBC expert. Oh yes, we got experts everywhere. This is about the funding of the terrorist organization Hezbollah, who are obsessed with this technical salute that's been going on since the 1930s in Germany. But let's focus on the person who got into trouble for this. Now, some of you might be familiar with this person, but Uchukwu Ojiri, 53 years old, lives in West London, today pleaded guilty to 8 counts of failing to make a disclosure during the course of business within the regulated sector. Now, this is following an investigation by the police into terrorism financing. He faced the first charges of its kind. This was under the Section 21A of the Terrorism Act of 2000. Now, a lot of people were wondering what this was about when it came out. Now, it's all about his so-called business connections who are directly linked and connected to Hezbollah of Lebanon. Now, considering everything that's been going on over the last year and a half, and the threat from Hezbollah around the world, this wasn't actually a new issue. This was going on for some time. Now, the Metropolitan Police in London said that the offences occurred between October 2020 and December 2021. When he was asked to provide plea, Ojiri paused during the court session earlier and quietly replied guilty. He was asked if he had pleaded guilty to all 8 counts, and he confirmed that yes. The Met said that the investigation into him related to his dealings with Nazim Ahmed, a suspected funding source for Hezbollah. Now, we have to talk about this Nazim Ahmed person because I don't think anybody knows who he is. Well, we're going to tell you. This is the guy. He's 60 years old. He's a dual national citizen of Belgium and Lebanon. So technically he's Lebanese. He has been sanctioned by both Britain and the United States. Now, earlier today, Westminster Magistrates Court heard that Mr. Ojiri had accessed news reports about Nazim Ahmed's designation and had discussed this with him and others. The prosecutor referred to one discussion between the two guys to a conversation where apparently a lot of people have known for years about Nazim Ahmed's terrorism links. So you can't just pretend that I didn't know. When there have been enough evidence, conversations between Ojiri and other people that they knew Nazim Ahmed is dodgy. Yet they continue to have business links and sold things to him, and the money went, allegedly, well, we don't need to say that, to Hezbollah. He's proscribed. Now, it doesn't really stop here. Because firstly, his case, Ojiri's case, obviously has now been sent to the Central Criminal Court for official sentencing. Now, he has to go to the Old Bailey on the 6th of June. And it's fascinating how bureaucratic the system is, by the way. It's the 9th of May right now, if you're watching this live. We have to wait another month for the sentencing to happen. Why can't we do it immediately? Now, clearly, Ojiri himself is in trouble, we know, but the BBC, who always claim that they vet people's backgrounds before they allow them to be connected to the news organization, to the main channel. Why is it that nobody's holding them to account? So, first things first. The statement we received from the BBC is short and sweet. Let's talk about this. They've said, it would not be appropriate to comment on ongoing legal proceedings. That is all we received from the BBC. Okay. They haven't even bothered to go with the usual rhetoric of we've learned from mistakes. Now, doesn't really stop here, because everything's been going on. They know they've messed up. The BBC has now deleted any page that referred to Algeria. If you go on their website, it just says, sorry, that page was not found. The program has been deleted. So they are already slowly wiping out, rewriting history, erasing everything without apologizing, without explaining anything, without actually giving us any details of did they do any vetting, or did they were just told this guy is an expert. Antiques, bring him on. He could be a BBC star, and he kept coming on the show. Well, all right, forget about all this. Considering that the BBC is funded by public money, public funding, and that money went to Algeria, and Algeria also has been selling things to Nazim Ahmed, and Nazim Ahmed has been apparently giving the money to Hezbollah. So technically the British public are connected to Hezbollah one way or another, right? His reaction, we have a quick video from the Westminster Magistrates Court when he came out. And he walked out freely because, he's on bail and he's gonna go to the sentencing next month on the 6th of May. This is how he...
You've had a great career as an art dealer. Why did you feel the need to sell artwork to somebody who suspects terrorism?
Sold artwork to a man linked to Hezbollah. Any comment this year, Kieran? Sent £140,000 worth of artwork to a man you knew.
I love how just like walking so chill, so relaxed, and they're just throwing questions. It's also interesting when journalists chase someone on the street to keep asking the same question. You can tell within the first 5 seconds they're not going to answer. And then they keep repeating the same question. I don't understand why. It's just to make a point. Every reporter and journalist needs their 15 minutes of fame. Like, oh, I asked this very, very tough question. It's not going to answer. So ask it once. See if he answers. If he doesn't, just move on. Just film him. Yeah, absolutely. But there's not much to do, right? Now, the interesting about this is that, yes, he was known as an art antique expert or whatever. And they knew, now we know that they knew of the links between, Nazim Ahmed, the Belgian-Lebanese Nazim Ahmed was already dodgy. Clearly, he pleaded guilty because he knew he was going to be found guilty anyway. He did it just to get better sentencing. Now, you might think this story is over. It's not over. Because what I want to focus on next month, when the sentencing happens, I want to keep my eye on it. Because I would like to see what sort of sentencing he would receive. Now, with everything we've seen in the United Kingdom, and in the West in general, over the last few decades, we've seen some problematic sentencing guidelines, right? Sometimes very soft and weak. How long do you think he's going to get? Firstly, is he going to get jail time? Obviously, right? Right, sure. I hope he gets jail time. And let me know in the comment section in the live chat. Just give me a prediction. How many months, how many years, how many decades you think he's going to get? And then we're going to have a look. And of course, we'll find out next month. But the threat of Islamism is everywhere. The threat of Islamism is different in every place. So in the hot zone of the Middle East, for example, Lebanon, the threat is extremely hot. You could die. In places like Iran, where the Islamic occupation is taking place, it's oppression. In the West, it's manipulation. So, do you remember the man a few months ago in February who burned the Quran in Manchester? He was arrested. And even though we don't have blasphemy laws, he was still arrested because he offended the Islamic side. Now, today we have some more information because the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, dropped the charges of when it comes to the offense, offending the Islamic institution. But there are other charges. Let's not forget, putting aside party politics, this is about good politicians. Some people are saying in the live chat, suspended sentence. He's going to get suspended sentence. Forget about party politics. We have some effective politicians, and big shout out once again to Robert Jenrick. Robert Jenrick once again single-handedly was campaigning to defend this man who burned the Quran in Manchester. By the way, it was his own book. It was his own private property, right? And Robert Jenrick managed to basically force the CPS to drop those charges. There are other charges, but it's a small victory. Putting aside the fact that Robert is a Tory and the Tory party right now is in a bit of a mess and can't be trusted, he actually is doing a good job as an MP. He was also the same person who started the campaign against the new sentencing guidelines, which was basically, if you're an ethnic minority, you will be treated better. If you're a white straight man in England, you'll be in massive trouble. Let's go to Jenrick.
Good news. It's a victory for freedom of speech. The CPS have caved and just announced that they've dropped the charge of causing distress against the institution of Islam that they'd levied against a man alleged to have burnt a Quran. It should never have come to this. It was a perversion of the law, and it would have reintroduced a blasphemy law by the back door. Frankly, it shouldn't have taken our campaign for the CPS to change course. Now, the new charge that's been updated is also seriously concerning. All of us would condemn somebody for desecrating a religious text. But we live in a free society. It must be possible to criticize or to mock a religion. Parliament abolished blasphemy almost 20 years ago, and they were right to do so. We have to keep fighting to ensure that we never reintroduce blasphemy laws by the back door. Today is a small victory for freedom of speech, but the fight goes on.
Yeah, he's right. Now, obviously the other charges are still there, and the fight continues. Having said that, they are bringing back blasphemy laws anyway. We've already heard from the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, and a number of other senior figures from the Labour government. What we don't understand, actually, there's some people in the live chat. I'm going to get your reaction in the live chat because we've got Melvin, who's American, saying, yeah, a lot of people are just disappointed or confused about what's going on in Britain in general. We'll talk about that in a second. But we are talking about the threat of Islam. So as I said, you've got different versions. In the West, it's manipulation, it's influence. In the actual Middle East, where we talk about Israel, is extremely hot, where obviously people could die again, because Israel, once again, was attacked. About an hour ago, Tel Aviv was attacked by the Houthis. We're going to talk about Israel, and we're going to talk about Iran. Let's talk about Israel first. This is the video we've just received. If you're watching this from Israel, or actually live in India, just a heads up, you're going to hear some sirens. I always have to give a heads up because obviously if you're from those places who you might be hearing sirens, you might panic your neighbors if your volume is too high. This is the beach in Tel Aviv when the sirens went off as apparently the Houthis in Yemen are once again attacking. Now, for those of you who are watching this right now in the Western world, and you're wondering how do you fight back against this threat from the 7th century? Well, I can give you a good example. Best case study. The people of Iran. Yes, the way they are fighting back against the Islamic occupiers. We have yet another video from inside Iran where at a football stadium, the Islamic occupiers were doing their usual propaganda and then singing the Islamic whatever, right? What do you think the people in the audience, the stadium, the Iranian people were doing? They were throwing things at the guy and they had to stop the whole thing. They were literally throwing stones and everything else. Watch this. They had to take him away. He had to cancel his Shia singing nonsense, whatever he was doing. This is how you deal with these guys. Thing is, the best thing to do is to not turn the West into another Iran, because if it turns into another Iran, you're going to have to do this. This is the only way they can fight back right now, because the Iranian people are not armed, but they also have nothing to lose. So, and that's the issue that we're currently facing. What is going on? Okay, we're getting some more updates, by the way, about the attack on Israel and everything else that's actually been going on over the last few minutes, which will bring you guys the update. Also, the guy was a terrible singer. Usually, when it comes to the Shia Muslims, they're very good at two things: public speaking. Like the Shia clerics and the imams can speak for like 5 hours straight without having any script or anything. They could just rant. But they can sing. They practice a lot. But this guy, not good. And yeah, that's how he was treated by the Iranian people in the Tabriz Stadium. This is in the northwest of Iran. All right, let's get some reaction from you guys. Carter says, what else is new? The BBC supporting terrorism. Yeah, it's interesting. If I had made this update for you guys on this channel about 4 years ago, I think more people would have been surprised, saying, this is a scandal, what is going on? I don't think anybody's actually bothering anymore. They're like, well, yeah, makes sense. It's just the BBC. Absolutely. Ivan says, it's fine. Starmer will knight him. Yeah. The thing is, Keir Starmer is in massive trouble for various reasons. But it's not just the fact that he's alienated the British public in general, but even though he's trying to pander to the anti-British Islamic extremists in the UK, then they're not going to vote for him. They have other options now. They got the independent candidates, they got the Green Party, and some of the Islamic side are creating their own parties anyway. So the next election, I mean, Labour will be hammered anyway, but there's no point in trying to pander to the pro-Gaza Islamists. Dasman says that if he goes to prison, he will make a documentary in there about the poor conditions that the melons faced inside. Yes. The thing is, these guys are grifters. Like, he's probably going to come out, write a book, and then he's going to probably be the voice of rehabilitation. You know, he's going to be the voice of, I went to prison, I met with some Islamic extremists, I tried to talk to them, I've learned some stuff, and I knew, basically like that. Remember Majid Nawaz, who was an Islamist, and then he was rehabilitated, and then he joined the Liberal Democrats. He became a Lib Dem, he became anti-Brexit liberal, and then then lockdown happened, he became anti-lockdown, he left the Liberal Democrats, and then he's kind of gone back to square one, because Majid Nawaz is basically now an Islamist again. Because if you have, psychologically speaking, genetically, whatever you want to call it, if you have that in your blood, that an element of extremism, like the word extremism could be anything, any sort of extremism, you will go back to it eventually. And that's why I always say, always be careful of those who convert. I'm not just talking about the religion, I'm talking about politically. When somebody who was like very hard left, when they convert, I'm now suddenly a classical liberal, I believe in conservative values, right? They tend to eventually go back to doing something crazy. And that's a perfect example of Majid Nawaz. And I know the guy personally, so his journey has been interesting. Best Black says he will be knighted. I love how everyone's talking about Ujiri being knighted, even though he committed a crime. Ivan says, does he value the art by how many AKs it's worth? Slow clap for Ivan. That's a good one. Catherine says, I have a feeling this BBC star will just have to pay a fine with probation. Great work, Mr. Tusi. Here, have a nip of a Glenmorangie. My favourite whiskey is Lefroy, for the record. But yes, whiskey is whiskey. I also think that China is behind Pakistan and the India conflict. Here, have some nuts and crisps for your nip of scotch. Of course China is, but not necessarily that China started it, but China is now behind stirring the pot. Yo-Yo says, why is YouTube blocking the England flag? It's not, because you can see it. But also, it's not some sort of anti-England thing, because so some of you might not see the flag emojis. So Yo-Yo, if you try to do Wales or Scotland, it's the same thing. It's not anti-English. They never recognize England, Wales, Scotland as an official nation, basically country. They have fixed it for many people, but some users, some accounts still don't see them. But most do see it. And I'm proud of it. This is the campaign I led about a year ago. So I had a number of meetings with YouTube to get them to do the coding, custom coding. What is this? Shamil Abiyad says, this channel is so non-existent, the BBC don't need to bat an eye. Okay. On a separate note, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have exceeded 821,000 subscribers. We've gained about 21,000 subscribers in a couple of weeks. The road to 1 million continues. The way it's going, probably by Christmas. Probably before. He says, Ogunachoko Ojiri got bail and Tommy Robinson didn't. Yeah. Anthony from Australia says, I have to say, nothing surprises me anymore. The sad world we live in. Isn't it sad that nobody's surprised about this? Like, come on, guys, be shocked. I just did a whole live stream about the BBC scandal. I was like, yeah, it's the BBC, obviously. All right, so I did ask you guys, how long do you think it's going to get? Sentencing, right? So many of you have said suspended. This one says 12 months suspended sentence. Andrew says 18 months suspended sentence. That's very specific as well. 2 weeks suspended. What's the point of that? Again, don't be surprised if it happens. And John says 3 months suspended sentence after receiving good character reports. Oh yeah, they're gonna love him in there. Blue Sapphire says, I just want to see some damn consequences. Well, I think we all do. Consequences have been missing from society for the last few years. Unfortunately, considering how far the rot has spread, I doubt he would get much time, if any. The thing is, I mean, it's not actually even about him. I'm not saying don't take it seriously or let him go. It's not that. This is just a symptom. It's just showing how much problems we have in the West. That someone like him, Ojiri, could do something like stupid like this and basically help fund Hezbollah. Yes, he could get punished. That doesn't really fix anything, does it? Because we are not addressing the real problem. That the virus is here. The fact that the virus of the enemy could reach our society and the BBC. And then when someone like this does wrongdoing, everyone's like, oh, that was naughty, but okay. Anyway, well, how's the weather? People just move on. That is the problem. And actually, as Blue Sapphire says, because we don't really have consequences anymore. And I don't think, and my point is, the consequences isn't necessarily about this guy. The consequences for the rest of society. Any level of deterrence. Any level of, if you fund Hezbollah, you will be in a bigger trouble. So it's not actually even about just punishing the one person. It's about sending a message to the rest of the country that we are taking things seriously, that we want to make this country safe again. And countries like the UK, because the problems we are having, you can see the same problems in Canada and Australia, specifically those two countries. So we're not seeing any of that. Carl says the BBC presenter Hugh Edwards, who was with pictures of children on his phone, and was given 0 jail time. So it will be interesting to see. But I think for this one, because of the terrorism charges, he's going to have to get something. But Melvin is here. Okay, so this is the guy I mentioned earlier. So what does it say? As an American, I don't understand the British law well enough to predict. But if it was in the US, I would guess this is worth maybe 5 years in prison. Though the real difference is that in the US, we have Trump. Yes, so... And actually, the Supreme Court right now is quite robust in the United States. Although, depending on the state, in America, you still have some weak and feeble sentencings, which is really weird, especially when it comes to the blue states. Anthony says, thank you for your super chat. The BBC loves to continuously promote Islam across Britain. even if one of their presenters risk getting arrested for being funded by Hezbollah. No, I think you misunderstood the situation, Anthony. It's not that he was funded by Hezbollah. He was helping fund Hezbollah. So it's interesting because most of the problems we have, every now and then in the UK or in the West, we expose someone, a politician, corrupt politician, or someone in the media getting funded by the Chinese Communist Party or some sort of state of Qatar. Usually, yeah, they are funded. They get the money from them. But now, in this case, we are the ones funding them. So, well, not we, this guy. Oh, Yo-Yo's back. Why YouTube blocking the England flag? I'm not talking about the British flag. I did explain this in plain English. I did. If you want to rewind back, try Wales and Scotland as well. It's not going to work. Because if you have one of those accounts that you still can't see, it's not about anti-English. It's the coding. It's also anti-Wales. And who's anti-Wales, right? Like, no one has any agenda against Wales anymore, right? That's the reason. I explained this. Come on. James says, 2C, you're a pain in the butt. Thanks for that. I've had to buy a TV license now just to watch your live channels. Not happy. Why on earth would you do that? You do not need a TV license to watch YouTube. For the love of God, stop falling for the propaganda of the government. You do not need a TV license to watch 2C TV. Don't buy TV license if you're watching this channel on YouTube. Why would you do that? Only if you're watching the traditional TV, the one with the cable that you put in the wall. If you're watching that, like the actual BBC One, BBC Two, ITV1, if you're watching that, you're going to need a license fee, their TV license. Or if you're watching BBC iPlayer live, same thing, online. Yeah, they keep telling you that... even if you have the internet, you have to get a license. No, you don't. Just say you don't watch live TV. 2C TV is not traditional TV. It's new media. Oh my God, Yo-Yo is back again. Muslims took over YouTube and blocked the England flag. No. That's not why. I'm very critical of YouTube on so many levels. Just not this situation. It's nothing to do with the Muslims. This is the same YouTube that, by the way, fought against the European Union, the British government, and many other governments when they've been trying to shut down channels that is anti-Islam, including Apostle Prophet and many other channels, and also even Tommy Robinson's channel. Remember a couple of years ago when they were the government was forcing YouTube to ban Tommy Robinson's channel? Like, no, we're not doing it. Like free speech, we're not doing. They have a lot of problems with YouTube. That there is censorship always, like any other corporation, but when it comes to basic free speech, for example, anti-Islam and all that stuff, they're still fine. Oh my God. Anyway, my love says TV license is only needed to watch live digital TV, record TV, or watch iPlayer. Yeah, the old TV, like BBC and ITV and all that nonsense. Don't need for 2C TV. Everyone should go to complaints BBC and report any cases of bias in their coverage. They are required to investigate and respond. Watch their Gaza coverage, for example. And if you see bias, complain. Yeah, I mean, you can do that. It's not going to change anything because they're going to continue to do the same thing. But, the only solution is to just remove the funding model, but which is not going to happen now because we have a Labour government. The Tories obviously introduced it. The Tories had the new law. By 2027, the license will be expired and the BBC will be on their own. Then Keir Starmer came and said, no, we're going to reverse everything that the Tories did and the BBC will be supported by the government. BBC says, cancel the BBC. Yes. And Ivan says, Yo-Yo is on a weekend release from the Nut House. No, I think Yo-Yo just misunderstood how things are working. It's fine. Stop bullying Yo-Yo. TV license. I have 20,000 channels. Anyway, we are going to come back later on the channel because it seems like, surprise, surprise, the Iran-US deal is a little bit dead. Surprise, surprise. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.